Welcome to the Nanny video tutorial series. In this video we're going to walk you through the installation and initial setup of Nanny for Windows. Now after you purchase Nanny online, the first screen you're going to see is a lot like this one. This is your receipt page, thank you for purchasing, and it's going to have your information, your email address, and this important piece of information here. This is your license key or your registration number. This is the number you need when you install Windows to make sure that your license is valid. Plus there's a handy download link to let you download Nanny directly. You can click that to get started. If you got this information in your email, and you should have got this same receipt in your email, it'll have this same information, and you can download Nanny with the link in the email or here at www.netnanny.com/downloads. And you can see the products here, and this will help us get the product we need quick. So Nanny for Windows is just this first link here. So let's click that and we'll start the download. Depending on your browser, it'll ask you to save the file or it'll just download it for you, and the download starts. Depending on your browser, you can either double-click the file right here, or you'll also find it, most likely, if you're like most users, in your Downloads folder of your user account. So let's go ahead and double-click to get started. It's going to go ahead and give you a couple of security warnings just to make sure you want to run a program you downloaded from the internet. You may also get a Windows user account control warning, just making sure you really want to do this. It's okay to hit yes. The first thing we're going to see is the language we want to use to install. We have English and Spanish available. Let's hit OK. And the next question is going to make sure to remind you to disable your firewall, antivirus, or anti-spyware programs before continuing. We really recommend you do this just as a precautionary measure. The reason is because Nanny works on a level of your computer's operating system similar to a firewall or antivirus, so we need to make sure there's not any conflicts with either of those two things. If you need some help, then there's some help available in our knowledge base at netnanny.com/kb. You can see these articles about how to disable your firewall. You can take a look at those, and they might be able to give you some help there. So once we've got everything set up, it's also going to ask you to close all other applications, and we can get to that in just a second because we need to get our license key. So the next screen when we hit next is our license agreement. These are the terms of your software usage. If you've read through and decided to accept, hit accept and go to next. Now is when it asks for your registration number or that license key we asked for earlier. So we're going to copy this part, highlight that, and Control C, paste it in there. Highlight the next part, put it in this bigger box here. And when we hit next, that's going to validate that license, make sure it works. And now we're getting started. So the first piece of information we need is an email address. The reason for this is that before we really do anything, we need to set up a user account. We need to set up security, even at this point in the installation, to make sure that there's a user account to work with, so we have an admin set up that can control all of the levels of Nanny protection that you might need. So we're going to go ahead and put in an email address and hit next. It's easier if that's the email address you used when you purchased, and we'll go ahead and put in a password. Make sure it's not a password that you write down and leave sitting next to your computer. That kind of defeats the purpose. So the next thing we need to do is set up a security question. And this is if you've never run into one of these before, this is just a question that's a bit of personal information about you that we can use to identify you and make sure you're who you say you are if we ever need to support your Nanny install, or if there's a password issue, we need to reset your password in case you forgot it, then we can do this through here. So what this does is if you click this first drop down, it gives you a series of questions, and you can just pick one and provide an answer that you don't think anyone else would probably know, and put your answer in the box. That way, if you ever need to call customer support, or if you run through the forgot password dialog, this will help you reset your password and help with any other support issues that may come up. So this will be tied to your account. We just need an answer for now. We won't need to use this anywhere else. So at this point, so let's hit next. The next screen we get is the ready to install, and now it's telling us we are ready to install Nanny on the computer. So at this point, we want to go ahead and close down all the other windows we're not using. Let's close down this, and everything's ready to go. Looks good. So let's hit install, and it's going to run through the install process. Okay, we've finished with the install, so we've got all the files we need loaded onto your computer, and here's now where we set up users. We recommend you do this right away to help maximize your level of NetNanny protection and customize that for individual members of your family. Now, you will be able to customize the level of protection for each of these users at a later point. This is just where it just gives you a basic tool to install users right away and get your protection up and running. So we're going to pick Help Me Create Users Now and hit Next. The next screen we get here is the NetNanny users, and you may notice already that we already have a user in place, and that is the admin with the admin profile type, and this is the administrator's account over NetNanny. Keep in mind this is not the administrator account for your Windows installation. This is just for your NetNanny installation. And the admin account is the one tied to the email address and password we've already set up. Keep that password safe because this will allow you to make changes for everyone else who uses NetNanny. So let's go ahead and add another user for hypothetical other members of your family. We'll just create some users here. In this user box is where you can set a base level of protection, and keep in mind you can customize all these settings later, and we show you how in another video. This is just where you want to set up a basic level of protection for a profile type. And to show you what that means, if you pull this down, you can see that NetNanny has already put together some basic settings for these age groups. So if we have our first user, Alice, and we put her down as a child, you can see the settings change for things that are already blocked, for time controls that are already set up, monitoring is enabled for everything, and video game rating is already set up. So if we like that setting now, remember, we can customize all these later. We can go ahead and add other members of the family. If you want to add a password, this is where you would do that. For example, if you have an older teen who is permitted to use more types of websites, more types of entertainment than smaller children, you would want to put a password on these to make sure that Bob here, the account is protected. Let's go ahead and do that. Set this as a teen level and hit OK. Let's add one more. And we'll put down Carol here as an adult. So you can see that only basic blocking is set up. There are no time restrictions. So remember, we can customize all these later. These are just the basic level of protection we want. So now we've got our users set up. We are ready to go. And we're going to hit Next to finish. This part may take a couple minutes just because we are syncing with the Content Watch servers to make sure that your users are in place on your account. The last screen we have here is the restart message, and this just is a reminder that you need to restart your computer before any of this protection can take effect, and that is just to make sure that your virus protection gets turned back on, your firewall gets turned back on, and NetNanny all get turned back on at the same time to make sure you are fully protected. So if you're ready and everything else is closed down, we're going to hit finish and restart the computer. And now we're back. Our computer has finished rebooting, and the first thing you might notice is that we've got this NetNanny Getting Started screen. This has some really helpful information about getting set up with NetNanny. You can just dismiss that, hit OK. You also may notice up here we have a shortcut to our NetNanny admin tools, and we'll look at those in just a minute. But first, what I want to show you is that now that you've rebooted your computer, NetNanny protection is already working. If we go to a browser window and try to access a site, any website, it doesn't matter what website, even if it's a safe one, because NetNanny wants to make sure that we've got the right level of protection. So it's going to ask us to log in to our local NetNanny protection software, select a user, and enter the password. Then it will determine if this website is safe for this user. We hit OK. And this will then give us internet access to get to where we want. So closing out of that, if you want to look at our admin tools, if we come down here, we can see the little NetNanny icon here. We double click that, and it's going to log us into our admin tools. So now here are our NetNanny admin tools, and we cover these in a lot greater detail in a different video, but you can see the settings for everyone who is set up as a user on your computer. If we right click the little NetNanny icon, you can see we've got a couple of other options, including disable odd admin tools, logging out, everything we need to do for NetNanny. So your NetNanny protection is now up and running, ready to help you control the content that comes into your home and enjoy the safety online you get with NetNanny.